Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hillary. In this podcast, I'm speaking with Traci Freeman. Traci's quite a force of nature in the BPO industry in South Africa. She's based in Johannesburg and runs Believe Consulting. She's an advisor to BPESA, the South African National Trade Organization for BPO, and was previously the Rockefeller Foundation representative for South Africa. In short, if you're involved in BPO or outsourcing in any way at all in South Africa, then you've probably met Traci. I've been hearing a lot recently about impact sourcing, and this is when companies outsource to a country or organization specifically to help that region. So instead of giving cash, they create jobs. And I knew that Traci had been involved in this for a few years now, so I called her to ask what's going on in impact sourcing right now. Okay, let's go straight to the interview. I mean, we've met in South Africa a few times, and we've often talked about impact sourcing and what it really means. But I think that for people who've only ever talked about more classic general outsourcing, how do you define impact sourcing and how do you explain the differences to people?
So, in essence, impact sourcing is a business practice where organizations intentionally hire marginalized individuals. And the intention is for companies to prioritize across their supply chain. So they need to involve suppliers and organizations who practice impact sourcing, who hire in what we refer to as impact workers, and ensure that there is career development opportunities for these individuals who otherwise would have had limited prospects for formal employment. What I would say is that a lot of individuals and organizations who initially come across impact sourcing assume it's just a social reaction and the right thing to do and the responsible thing to do. But I like to liken it to fair trade, where the intention around consumers choosing from ethical brands, they know that there's been kindness to people and planet. But there's also a business case to impact sourcing. So it's not just about the right ethical thing to do. And we've seen through a lot of the case studies that we've been involved in is that the business case includes new sources of talent. There's definitely higher levels of employee engagement, and it results in lower attrition rates, which of course you can definitely see the cost savings in that. Mm-hmm. And then literally for a lot of brands, they're actually growing and empowering their own expanded consumer base by having more individuals able to actually afford their products and services.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know that, if I go out and purchase, say, a fair trade bar of chocolate, normally I would be spending more for that, but I know that I'm doing some good. When businesses use impact sourcing, does it cost them a lot more to do that?
No, quite the contrary. So it really depends on how they engage, and those organizations that have actually consciously decided to join the impact sourcing movement, and I'll give you a bit more insight now into the Global Impact Sourcing Coalition. But those that have decided to join in, there's cost savings because you can practice impact sourcing across many aspects of your business. So the impact sourcing model was initially tested in the business process services or the BPO sector, where there's traditional outsourcing that takes place. And that could be onshore or offshore. So it really depends on which geographies you're choosing. But those environments, you'll often see that there is a reduced rate in the actual cost of labor anyway. But what we do see, and it's the business benefits that I mentioned, is that initially there may be a little bit more that is spent on the individual that is being incorporated into the organization, but over a period of time, and it's a short period of time, we've seen sort of 6 to 8 months, you'll end up seeing the business benefits coming through because of the quality that's actually coming out from the individuals. It's on par, if not exceeding, a standard recruit. And then, of course, I mentioned the lower attrition rates, which means you're not having to re-recruit, re-screen, and retrain the individuals. So we're actually seeing a reduction of cost.
Okay. And are you involved in any specific initiatives at the moment, or are you focused more on promoting it conceptually?
So at the moment, it's more conceptual promotion. I was quite involved with a number of initiatives, though, where we tested it. And it's really ensuring that organizations who are, and again, I'm talking from a BPO perspective, but it could really be on your facilities management, be it your security company, your cleaning, etc. But from a BPO perspective, there are numerous organizations that have insisted that their suppliers or their third-party operators are actually practicing impact sourcing. So we have organizations such as Aegis, Alorica, Bloomberg, Convergys, Microsoft, Tech Mahindra, Teleperformance, just to name a few of them. And one example I'll probably highlight would be WebHelp, where they've partnered with what in the Global Impact Sourcing Coalition would be known as an associate member, also happens to be one of the founding members, which is a youth employment accelerator and a social organization known as Harambee. They actually engage with marginalized communities, long-time unemployed youth individuals, bring them in and screen them for their ability to learn, rather than based on their academic paperwork. And from there, they actually partner with WebHelp, and WebHelp recruits these individuals through from Harambee, in essence, practicing their impact sourcing. It's all good and well to go and build up a supply of competent individuals that are ready and able to be employed and actually deliver work and value to an organization. But if there are no organizations, i.e. demand out there, you're never going to close the loop. So you're not going to have the impact that they're actually looking to achieve. So where Harambee, as an example, has really been intentional is ensuring that they're balancing that demand and supply. They've really gone all out to understand what it is that business needs, and they've gone to see how can they help business achieve what it is that they're looking to achieve by getting the right individuals in, but sourcing those from marginalized communities and marginalized individuals.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. You mentioned that in a lot of cases this has been working on business process outsourcing and contact centers. Mm-hmm. Has it expanded? I mean, are there different types of industry looking at this as well?
So it's almost doing organic growth. I know that Microsoft, for example, who's also one of the founding members, has been very intentional about shifting this across their supply chain. And there's been a certain amount that's happened in the financial services sector. But the initial testing, and the Global Impact Sourcing Coalition was launched in 2016. The initial testing was done in the BPO sector. It's an easy sector to tap into. And not only that, there was a huge appetite from the BPO sector to actually engage with the thinking. And they were prepared to actually shift away from traditional recruiting and sourcing methodology. That's why we've seen so much success there. So now that that's been seen, and standards have actually been developed and metrics have been developed around those standards to ensure that suppliers and organizations that are suggesting or claiming to be practicing impact sourcing, that they actually are. And these standards have actually, the foundational elements have been based on the UN Declaration of Human Rights, and working with the International Labour Organization to make sure that the standards are robust but globally relevant.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if I'm a purchaser of services, I'm hiring companies like Teleperformance or WebHelp, how do I find out if they are actually engaging in this, or who do I go to for more information?
So the Global Impact Sourcing Coalition, the GISC, is actually run and managed by a secretariat known as BSR, Business for Social Responsibility. And they have a website, literally just searching on GISC and it'll come up. They have toolkits that are there, so any buyers of service or any companies that are wanting to start practicing impact sourcing across their supply chain will have a very clear idea of which providers are claiming to be practicing impact sourcing, and they can engage with them from there. But they can also start practicing impact sourcing themselves. They don't need to be outsourcing to a third party in order to practice impact sourcing. They can start shifting and changing their hiring and recruiting habits.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. Please tell your friends and contacts about the podcast by sharing it using the hashtag #CXFiles. And if you can leave a comment and rating on iTunes, that would be fantastic. Thank you in advance. I'm always open to ideas and suggestions, so if you want topics explored or covered on the podcast, you can find me using @MarkHillary on Twitter. That's Hillary with 2 L's. Or just search LinkedIn for Mark Hillary and CX Files. Thank you and see you next time.